What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on No Man's Sky. As I said in the last episode, this is going to be part 2 of the video which I kind of did post-version of post-commentary because of all the time and stuff that I put into it recording the off-camera footage type of thing. Not live, basically. Wasn't really off-camera, it was just not live. So, with that in mind, we're gonna jump right in this episode. Needs no explanation, essentially. So this is where we're gonna pick up with the rest of the story, and it should cover also how I got my freighter and how we got the beginnings of our fleet. So I'm gonna switch over to the post-commentary, and hope you guys enjoy. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so this part, I was making the antimatter because it was part of basically what the mission had me do, even though I'd done it a billion times already. It was like I had gone somewhere, so now I had the warp cell. I talked about that in the last episode a little bit, of like there was that weird overlap where it was like you had to make it, but you couldn't make it because the ship was already full because I swapped it out. So it made things a little complicated, but when I got here, it gave me another antimatter thing because it had to do with how far I had gone, and that I hadn't gone far enough or something to find whatever I'm looking for. So once we got back out into space, it told me to warp somewhere else. It could have been wherever. The mission objective was like at the home base area, but I don't think it really mattered. It was just like go somewhere else kind of thing, because every time you warp you keep getting these different signals as the mission stuff kind of keeps going. So I decided to explore a different one instead. And I don't really think it matters. I think it has to do with how many times you jump, not really where you're going. It's not like you're gonna have to keep jumping around until it's like, hey, it finally found me. When we got here, I think I received a signal. Yep, there we go. Starship monitoring system reports hyperdrive error, warp fuel, searching for fuel source. And so it gives you another place to find more antimatter. But you'll notice it's that 16 thing again, so it's still part of the quest. Guidance accepted, plotting route. So then it gives you new coordinates, which takes you to another place where you can get more antimatter, if my memory serves. Okay, so yeah, this was headed to the fuel source. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that even if you're like, oh, I'm full, once you jump or something, it's still like just part of the quest line. You have to do it this way. But I feel like it was a little confusing the way that they set it up. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense for if you weren't doing the story and then decided to do the story and were further along than just starting off. It's a little wonky with giving you all the fuel source type thing. But this was our first, like, look at ruins kind of thing. And I did go around, I don't think I recorded it, but I did go around and get all the different words from the nodes that are around here. Reading anomaly detection protocols. This structure is unlike anything I've encountered on my journey so far. Everything about it is so obviously alien, so obviously out of place. As I stare at it, words form themselves in my mind, a strange fragment of broken speech. Is it traveler? Is it friend? This part was kind of interesting because I wasn't really sure how it would react or whatever, depending on what, so I think I ended up going with friend, just kind of like, I come in peace kind of thing. It feels strange responding to questions I am unsure that I'm being asked, but something has clearly taken notice of my reply. I am overwhelmed by a sense that something has awoken, that someone is watching me. It forms another question. Is it first? Is it last? This was an interesting one, and it took me a minute to think about, but I ended up going with last because I was thinking to myself of how old these structures must have been and stuff, so there's no way I could be the first, but if I solved whatever, I'd be the last, that kind of thing. I do not know how I am being spoken to. This monolith is ancient, and I cannot escape the feeling it has asked these questions many times over. That's the kind of thing about being last. It asks again, has it seen the Crimson Eye? Has the Crimson Eye seen it? Now this one was a little tricky again too. I think I went with both, because at the one point where you open the terminal and it talks about the Crimson Eye, you see a Crimson Eye, I was like, well, if you see an eye, then the eye must have seen you. Likelihood of anomaly exceeds safety parameters. Breach detected. Alert, alert, the boundaries fall, the walls collapse, your universe awaits. Find us, traveler. So, that kind of didn't really answer a lot of things. It actually just brought more questions, but they did give me a warp cell, which is cool. So then it tells you to find the mysterious messenger. There are strange powers at work here. I have been left messages, crumbs that lead me along a trail. Should I seek answers? This I'm not sure about what it actually does, because you basically have the option later. Should I investigate these anomalies and breaches, or should I enjoy the galaxy on my own terms and avoid whatever trouble this is surely leading towards? So it's kind of like a way for you to like not have a quest going on at the moment, but I don't know how that would react. But we're given another mission to go, I think somewhere else. So I went to a different system. I apologize that this is super choppy. It was the footage I had to work with kind of thing. I wasn't always recording, but the anomalous signal shows up. I don't know if you guys saw it in my bar there down to the bottom, but basically you had to pulse the system and then the anomaly actually shows up. So any of you that have seen my previous series on No Man's Sky would recognize this as Polo and the other alien, I forget their name. But they're like the space anomaly thing that kind of follows you around every now and again. Though I can't remember how the quest structure was in the original version, but I do feel like they've changed some of how Polo and Nada's quest lines are set up, but that might just be me not having done them in a long time. And I do think this is a separate quest line as well. Friends everywhere, if only you know where to look. Friends in all shapes, all sizes, all places. The Gek wipes their grease-splattered hands on their suit as they address me. They introduce themselves as Specialist Polo, fugitive of the Gek. They tell me they gave up trade, units, and all material possessions to flee into an anomaly outside of time and space with a robotic priest. They have jocular air about them, all things considered. I don't know what that actually means, or even if I'm saying it right, so yeah. They are curious about my travels, about what sentient species I have seen. They do not get out much these days. So then you can agree to find data for Polo. And it requires you to reach the milestone of recognized. At least this is where I'm at. I don't know if that's the starting point or not, but you have to meet... I guess it is, because it's only the first milestone. But meeting 30 aliens, I guess, is the first milestone. So then we talk to Nada. 16. The panels in the system's idle. Nada stares at them, their mask waning. This single word issuing from their mask, their refrain. 16. Traveler hopes to make progress. Traveler tests themselves. Nada will help in exchange progress for progress. You have seen much, but do you understand? Not for Nada to know, please take this. So I got a ton of nanite clusters for whatever I did. Now, I don't know exactly what milestones or data they're going off of for that. But I figured out that that was part of a secondary side quest, so I went ahead and left that system. I can't remember if it came up in the options, like in the log and said to leave, or if I just left. I don't remember. And then, because I jumped around enough, I picked up this distress signal from a battle thing. So there's this Gek freighter. I've been hailed by a passing freighter. The life form who placed the call seems distressed. Gesturing frenetically, they seem in dire need of assistance. So of course I offered my help. Now, a lot of you may already be aware, but after you've jumped around enough times, you always kind of get something like this mission, which is essentially a free freighter at this point in the game. I don't know if that was pre-next or what, but as far as of right now, having started a new game, that is standard. Like, it's not just, oh, you randomly got a free freighter, excuse me. It's actually like part of the main thing, as far as I know. It's just after you jumped around enough, you get... Now, I mean, I guess you could refuse. I don't know why in the world you would. Who's going to turn down a freighter? And I have to admit, I like the... Now, grant you, I had done enough upgrading to my ship that I am in like an A-class fighter ship here. So this was much easier than it probably should have been. My shields and stuff held up much, much better. I haven't done any actual module upgrades to my ship, but just in general, it's a fighter class ship, which is one jump in the right direction, but then it's also an A class. So, you know, I was able to do this relatively easily. If any of you remember my previous series and stuff, whenever I was in a starfighter battle, it didn't usually go well. I'm not particularly good at the space combat. Now, I will say this, I'm starting to notice it again. We were in a, or I was in a ringed planet area, and the way that Hello Games designed the ringed planets is different from, like, say, Elite Dangerous, where it tried to do every little asteroid and things as some kind of, I think Elite actually does, like, a map, where it just generates a series of asteroids, but it's like they're not really there, a physical object, but it's still, like, up close kind of looks like, up close it kind of still looks like an asteroid field. In this, it's actually just like a fog. So then I killed all the guys. The life form who must be the captain of this freighter looks greatly relieved. They gesture as if to welcome me aboard their vessel. So the problem here was the location that the freighter spawned into is in the middle of this fog ring for the planet, and it got really, really, really annoying because for whatever reason, it bleeds into your view. Like whether you're in a ship, in a freighter, as you can see, everything is super foggy, which was really annoying. If I'm gonna be honest, it was very, very irritated. I couldn't wait to get this ship out of this spot. It was like I was running into stuff. I couldn't see where I was going half the time. It was really super annoying. Yeah, you can even see here I was kind of lost. So I wanted to explore around the ship's interior, but I didn't really want to on camera at this point because of the fog. It was really aggravating, and I do apologize for that. I couldn't move the ship, so it was really bad. It was really bad. I don't like how they handled that. That needs to be fixed. The small creature eyes chatters excitedly. I think that's a typo. Excitedly, and hops from one foot to the other. Gesturing wildly around the bridge, they point towards the control panel of their freighter. They seem to be suggesting that I take command. Basically, he was like, "Yeah, you help me here." The captain looks at me happily, almost relieved. Perhaps the burden of command had become too much for them. Their ships and its crew is now at my disposal, as well as command of this freighter's support frigates. Now, support frigates are totally new to Next, as far as I understand it. And we also got another 18 slots of storage, and it has its own technology tab as well, which is where the hyperdrive is. And I note that for a reason. I'd also like to note that these are Gek. So this is a Gek freighter that I took over. Bear that in mind. It's going to come back later. Now, the Galactic Commission Station is where you'll take on freighter missions. The Navigator is where you can do expeditions, I believe. But in order to do that, yeah, you can see here the mission board for different guilds and things like that. Now, I don't know if now that we have this, if we'd have access to guilds or not. I didn't experiment with that. And I believe the guy standing there is where you do your expeditions. Happy Captain Friend, we will plan many expeditions together, but first you must build a fleet command room so that you may talk to your fleet as they sail. So eventually this unlocks expedition type things where you can basically AFK send out ships. Navigator Denentis has prepared an expedition for my fleet, but my freighter lacks the fleet command room I need to maintain communications during the voyage. I believe that's kind of like an AFK type thing, where you can send them out and then it happens in real time. And this is the fleet command room, so it's silver, gold, and tritium, all of which can be found out in space. So the next place that the mission sent me was to a random character on board the station in this system. Traveler, your path is diverging. Seize this thread and return. As the alien speaks to me, they do not move their mouth. When I blink, I see that same red light that stared at me at the terminal. See, you keep seeing the red light and stuff, so I'm like, well, if I'm seeing it, then the eye must have seen me, right? The life form appears to be offering me another antimatter sample. As I take the antimatter, the life form jolts suddenly, their head and eyes shaking as they snap out of some confusion. They do not appear to recognize me. I left this part in here because I ran across something rather interesting. I was gonna refuel my fighter's hyperdrive. But then I thought, well, what if I refuel my freighter's hyperdrive, since the freighter has its own now, which is in the technology tab. So one warp cell fills the whole hyperdrive, which I don't recall if that works for a fighter or not. So then back on board the ship, I couldn't build this yet, but I did find another thing that I missed, which is the freighter warp map on the side there. That actually allows you to warp to another system while inside your freighter, which brings all of your ships with you, which is pretty cool. And now your extra storage ships are stored in your freighter, as far as I can tell, which is really neat. It's a pretty cool idea. I didn't really have anywhere particular to go, so I think I just picked towards the galactic center to see what it did. I don't really think there's anything that indicates you have to go to a specific place. But this is the really cool part, is it uses less fuel than your fighter, and you bring all of your ships with you at one time. As you can see here, when I highlight the warp or hyperdrive for my freighter, it's only at 80%. So it's only taking 20% to make a jump to one system, which is really cool. Now this was weird, because now they're Korvax. So it seems like your ship's crew is dependent on what system you're in, which is odd. So we picked up another transmission when I left. You are not alone. Please identify yourself. I'm blank. I chose to remain silent because I was like, I don't know you, dude. I'm not giving out information. You first. He said, but, you know, I know you can hear me. Speak, I beg of you. So finally I was like, well, this is probably not going to go anywhere if I keep clamming up, so screw it. Let's just tell him who we are. You left me. Blank. Why did you blank? Yeah, I think I chose don't understand more than apologize. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Of course you'd say that. Of course you'd blank. Just like the others. I decided to ask who they were rather than ask about the others because I figured I'd get a random response. There's no reply. The communicator falls silent, though the channel remains open. So the channel remaining open allows you to pick up more coordinates that you can basically track back down. As you can see there, the space anomaly is its own primary mission. That confirms what I was saying earlier. I didn't remember if I showed that or not. So we pick up the stranger's coordinates here, and we get the little beacon to figure out where they're headed, or where they are. So yeah, I wasn't really sure about the whole who we're dealing with and everything, because it was like, you left me, and I was like, I haven't been around anybody. How did I leave somebody? So at this point, I was headed over to I was trying to get a better angle of where the coordinates were so it wouldn't try and fly around and stuff. I wanted to kind of have a straighter shot. And then headed towards the coordinates. Now this was an interesting situation because there is another crashed ship, which crashed ships don't cost you anything, so you don't have to swap out your current one. You can just add them to your collection now. Which is a good idea because I'm going to show later in the video, you can actually save a little bit rather than trying to repair the broken ones by just trading those in. So the stranger's coordinates are right here. We did need to get some chromatic metals and stuff like that in order to unlock it. As you can see, I didn't have much on me at the time. I think we needed chromatic metal for this. Sodium nitrate for the one, And we needed chromatic metal for that. So I went and got that. I went off and mined a bunch of stuff, found what I needed, or I eventually did. This is where I took note of the ship, because there's a ton of broken parts on these ship, but all you have to repair is the launch thrusters and the pulse engines. As long as those are functional, you can leave the planet, go back up to a space station, and trade in the ship, which, since it doesn't cost me anything, was fairly worth doing, because it basically was like a free ship, and I didn't have to repair everything. And I didn't know what was going on here. Thing looked like he was having a seizure, but apparently he felt better afterwards. Thought it was hilarious. So finally I had what I needed. As you can tell, time has passed. So we activate the signal beacon. And we get a bunch of garble. There are no signs of life, there is only the static of a broken communicator. So we extract the records. Whatever message was once here has been scrambled beyond recovery. All I extract is the pilot's name, Artemis. Whoever they are long gone. So I don't know what he's complaining about. The only other uncorrupted data is a set of plans and upgrade for my mining beam. I don't know what he's complaining about, though, because it's like, you're like, you left me! Well, you left, so. And I got a force field thing for the mining laser that I haven't actually used yet, so I'm not sure how it works, but essentially, like every other mission, the biggest thing was go back out to space, you pick up another signal, so you use the communicator to see what's going on. Where? Is there anyone out there? It's outside it. Something's wrong with. So I asked, which one did I go with? What's wrong? I asked the stranger what is wrong. There's a moment's pause. The only sound I hear is the background hiss of cosmic radiation. Because apparently you can tell that by the hiss. You found me. There's so little light. I thought I'd never hear another soul again. I really did. How did you find my voice? Say you found a crashed ship. I tell the stranger about the abandoned starship wreck and how I found their communicator ID in the distress beacon. It's outside, but I think I'm safe. There are 16 of them. They look just like blank. Ask about 16 or ask where they are. I think, yeah, I was curious about 16. Fear and confusion dance within the eyes of the stranger. After a few moments of silence, they turn to me, imploring. You don't know who you are, do you? You blank. It lied to me. It lied to all of... And it cuts off. The sound cuts out, but their face lingers on silent before it too fades into nothingness. Now, the interesting part here is having played the first part, Artemis needs my help, I need to find a way to boost the signal. Having played the first main version of the story... Oh, hold on a minute. So, this is what I was talking about before. There's so many damaged components and would require a ton of materials to fix it, but since we repaired the pulse engine and the launch thruster, I got back up here to the station and am able to trade it in and get a few $100,000 off of it. Now, grant you, I'm still paying $1 million because this is an A-class ship that I'm comparing to, but you can tell I saved myself a ton of materials by spending a few units, which obviously isn't a problem since the last episode of the get-rich-quick type things. I also found on this particular station, there's a ton of these encrypted nav data areas, which can either give you nanite clusters or navigation data. It wasn't just the ones over by the shopkeepers, it was actually like all over the station on all these desks. So if you're hard up for navigation data or something, I would definitely look around the stations for some of these cubes, especially if you find one that has this like office kind of area. It has quite a few of them. I also tried to fall down there. I wanted to see what would happen, but it wouldn't let me. So. Oh, the other thing here was I found each station has its exosuit upgrades, so if you don't want to go looking for them, you can do it that way. But what a lot of people may not realize, you can tab over and get either a cargo, a tech, or a main upgrade. So I've been putting a lot into cargo because it lets you store a lot more of each item, kind of thing. So at this point, I followed the signal, and we ended up in the... I don't remember exactly where we are or anything like that, but it takes you to this hollow terminus, which is really, really cool. And I feel like I remember seeing clips of this from, like, the Atlas Rising update and things like that. But the building here is really, really neat. It's really cool. I'm hoping to see more and more of these kinds of places as I progress through the story and stuff like that, because it would be really neat to see a lot more of this kind of unique architecture, especially these ladders. I'm kind of like, please tell me I can get these ladders in my builds, in my bases, because they're really cool. Because I know that they had, like, ladders before, but I don't really think you could use them. Or could you? I feel like they were just kind of there for placeholders and then you flew up. Either that or I just found it was faster. I can't remember. This is, to me, where the Awakening storyline really kind of starts opening up, though. Because you're actually kind of on your first introduction to kind of the alien side of the storyline. It's not just following a bunch of signals, you actually found like a ruin type of thing that isn't just a ruin. So it was kind of neat. So at this point we access the holo terminal and you have to refuel it. It's not a repair, so you need to have some sodium or sodium nitrate on you to power it. Holo Terminus activated, multiple signal sources available. The tower hosts a powerful transmitter designed to facilitate holographic communication across long distances. The extra power should allow me to establish the connection to Artemis. Tune to the frequency. I try to locate Artemis's frequency, uploading the data from our previous communication. So yeah, that was cool. I hadn't really seen anything like this in the rest of the game, so it was kind of like, ooh, ah. Who's there? It's you again, isn't it? You really are real, aren't you? You aren't a dream? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm real, last time I checked. I'm sorry, it's hard to think here. Something's wrong with the blank. It's easy to fabricate a better reality when you have to. I thought you might be a dream. I'm sorry. I haven't heard another voice in so long, not since I cut the speaker from my exosuit. It said such terrible things. Which is intriguing to me. I'm kind of like, was it really the speaker or was it in your head? The stranger smiles through the static. I'm just like you. You are a traveler of worlds, aren't you? I guess? I ask what a traveler is. They do not respond with speech. They transmit a vision, a red star, and a fragile world. I do not understand the shapes within, the whispers. I see life forms scattered to the far reaches of the galaxies. I see this stranger's first breath, yearning for the stars. I see myself slumbering in the crimson void, waiting for a dream of worlds. And through the darkness, I hear it said. Anomaly detected. Designation traveler. Awaken. What I showed you just now, it was already inside of you. We are all born with this memory, even if we don't know how we lost it. We are the travelers. We are the fourth race, discoverers of worlds. How long did it take you to realize you were different? From the moment you woke, you must have sensed something. So did I. Before I became stranded here, I was on a journey to find others of our kind, to finally meet. It cannot be a coincidence that you found this signal. Tell me, do you still have the data log from that crashed ship? So I decided to give him the data log because I was figuring, well, it's his ship anyway, he might know what to do with it. I upload my exosuit's records, including the strange transmission I received and the data I found at the crashed vessel. Much of my equipment is damaged. I am alone on foot, stranded on a sunless world. I don't even know how your signal is reaching me, but this ship you found, it belonged to me once. Perhaps there is hope after all. We need to work out where we both are. If you build signal boosters across this system, we should be able to triangulate your position. I'll finally get out of this hellhole, and you'll get all the answers you seek. Sound like a deal? Thank you, Traveler. You're going to save my life. You're going to find me. So at this point, you're tasked with placing down a signal booster. Since I had one already, I went ahead and did it, but then you actually are told to... I was kind of like, please don't tell me we can just find it, because it keeps saying triangulate, and they're actually going to make you do a triangulation setup where, even if it's on the same planet, but they said throughout the system, so I'm not sure, but even so, you're going to basically place one here, and then you can access this one and tell it to triangulate, I believe. Yeah, so triangulate the position, but then you need to go place 2 more other places in order to actually triangulate it, which I thought was a really nice touch, because so often they'll say triangulate this, and it's basically just, you know, place one down, and you're like, that's not how triangulation works. So I was really excited to see that they're actually doing it correctly, basically. So that's basically it for this part, so let's go back to present day. Whew. Alright, so that is a short condensed version, or as short as I could condense it, as to how we got here. So now it makes sense why the icon over here says we have another suitable location to drop a beacon so that we can triangulate the position that we need. Moving forward, I will probably go back to a live style after this episode, because a lot of this was just because I really wanted to play the new update and I didn't really want to record with commentary that entire time. So I thought it would be easier to just do some bulk footage type stuff and then do some post commentary. But as of now, I think we're caught up, so I think it'll be better to probably move forward with more of a live style. I'll probably still cut out stuff or do speed ups for boring things like farming or grinding, but when it comes to like the story related or things like that, I will probably do them live from now on. I had kind of like a mix down the middle as to what people seem to prefer, because I threw it out there as kind of a... I had to do it really this way anyway because of the constraint of I had like 7 hours worth of footage that I had to condense down. Maybe not the whole, maybe not 7 hours worth of footage, but I had played for 7 to 10 hours, something like that. Somebody had actually asked me that, of how long did it take me to get here from the first episode, and it was probably somewhere between 5 to 10 hours, I think. But it's hard to tell because I spent a lot of that time doing the what is it, the cryo pump trick and selling ships and things like that in order to get better gear and things. So it's a little bit hard to make an actual accurate assessment of if I was just doing the story and progressing through with the freighters and all that kind of stuff, how long that would have actually taken. But yeah, so at this point we're caught up, so I don't really have that ton of footage and details and story and stuff to cover. As I'm making this video, there hasn't been, I think 1.55 is coming out. It's in the experimental branch as of the time of recording this, so there's supposed to be quite a few bug fixes inbound that hasn't hit. I'm on the live branch, I don't do the experimental at the moment. So hopefully by the time we do another episode and we're live, some of the bugs and more things have been ironed out. I'm actually really hoping for a performance update soon, more so than bug fixes. A lot of people have been complaining about bugs. I haven't encountered too many of them. I have run into a few. Most notably was that one where the fog was in the ship. That was super annoying. But as far as game breaking, can't proceed with quest lines, I did run into the thing with the warp cell, because I already had a ship that was full. That one got a little confusing. But mostly I've just had issues with the performance of the game overall, the frame rate type thing, not performance itself. It loads fine and does all that kind of stuff, but it's like, it doesn't really strike me as a game that should be that graphically or performance intensive, so I don't really understand why it's, other than just if it needs to be optimized and polished off a little bit in terms of the under the hood part of it. So, but with that, I think we're going to wrap this up here. Let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. Be sure to click on the little bell icon if you want to be notified when I update. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that. We would welcome to have you here. That doesn't make any sense at all. We would love to have you. Let's just leave it at that. So we're going to wrap things up here for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.